Hey folks, Doug St. Denis of Ridge to River Outdoors. This is part 3 of a winter blackmouth seminar that Mike Jamboretz of Jambo Sport Fishing gave at the King County PSA meeting. Mike had a lot of great information at this seminar, and one of the things that I was really interested in that he provided was a new product by Silver Horde. Mike, tell us a little bit about this plug.
Well, this plug was designed to imitate a candlefish. As you can see, it has the dark stripe on the back. It's a glow plug. It's built on a glow body. It's got UV paint on the belly. It's just going to light up, and it's going to enhance that little black strip on the back, black and purple. And this is just going to be killer for blackmouth this year.
So Mike, I think when you were talking in the seminar, you actually had some really good pointers. When people are getting into shaker fish on one type of lure, expand on that just a little bit more, because I think this plug comes into play on that.
Well, a shaker is an undersized fish, and they tend to really grab onto those spoons a lot, and it's not good for anybody to be whacking those little shakers. It keeps you from catching a real fish, and sometimes the hooks aren't too good for the shakers either. So that's the time to go to a bigger lure, go to a plug. Put a plug on, and I guarantee you won't catch that many shakers, especially this one from Silver Horde.
Excellent. So guys, stick around for part 3, and we'll see you at the end.
Okay, herring is a pretty good thing in anywhere you fish, any kind of salmon, okay, or cod for this guy, okay. Herring's fish food. You can't beat it. Sometimes it's not such a good thing when the dogfish are present, okay. You pretty much got to take it off and get rid of it, okay. Out here, you don't want to use giant herring. Herring is sized by, the package is color coded from red. Actually, they start at an orange, they go all the way up to a black. Blue's kind of the middle of the road. It's a pretty big herring. Purple's bigger. When they get into those sizes, you're only going to get 6 to a tray, and then when they get into the blacks, you're going to get 4 to a tray. The greens and red labels are the smaller herring. They're going to work better for you out here as a rule for blackmouth. Okay, you can run them as a cut plug. I'm just showing you that there. I start out the top hook, the one that's towing the herring is a 4/0, the one that's trailing. Try to tie them where that hook's going to be right back by the tail. Okay, you don't have to bury that into the meat. Just make sure it's back there. The length is critical, that hook's back there. Okay, and I do run 2 different sizes, just on the smaller bait. Okay. If you're taking a herring and you're gonna, and I advise to do this, I know you guys probably already do it with your coho fishing that everybody's doing right now, but when blackmouth comes up, do the same thing. A little strip of bait on the top hook, not the back hook, because you don't want that piece of bait to slow that bait down when it's being flipping around by a flasher either, okay? If you put too big of a piece of meat on there, it's not gonna flip around just like the bead thing we talked. You don't want your lure to be too heavy. You don't want it to have too much drag in water. You want it to be able to move. This is like a green label, or sometimes I'll take a blue label herring, which is bigger, fillet one side off, okay? It works really good, by the way, when you're doing this, just to pull them out of the freezer and set them on the kitchen counter, okay, right next to the sink, because it's okay at your house, right? Okay, it is at my house. Anyway, put them there for, just set them there for half an hour or something there with, let me back up a second. If that package of herring is vacuum sealed, cut a hole in it before you let it thaw out, or it'll smash the baits, okay? Okay, so cut a hole in it, let it thaw out. Thaw it out, just about 50%, it makes it really easy. It's really easy to make that cut right there. You can feel the backbone, it goes and zip right through there. Okay, flip that thing over, take the knife and pull those entrails out. Okay, and back up there. You want to take the blade of the knife and just scrape the belly out and get that red stain out of there from the entrails, and then so you have a nice clean piece of meat. That tail is going to be your first little triangle, okay? There's your tail, okay? Take the piece forward of the tail. After you cut the tail off and just cut it at a diagonal, you got 3 pieces out of that side, okay? If that's too big for your hoochie, if you're using like a little candlefish, you might have to make some other cuts on it. But the reason it would be too big, once again, is if it's pulling drag in the water. You don't want to slow that bait down. But that's so easy to do, and that's the cleanest way to do it. Make sure that you pull those entrails out, like I said, and then cut all your pieces. Make sure you're cutting it on the meat side. You don't want to cut through the scale side. It makes it hard to cut, and it goofs up your knife. Makes a sloppy cut too. Salt brine, okay? This is how I do it on the boat when we're fishing cohos and blackmouth. But I throw all those little pieces, they're all pre-cut, okay, into a salt brine. I've got a recipe for it right here. It's coming up on the screen too, but anybody that wants one of these, this is a simple recipe for, it's not all the fancy stuff that you can add scents to it and whatever. It's on a card, you can stick it on your refrigerator, stick it in your wallet, okay? And it's just a real simple recipe. I use half of this, by the way, for one of those. I take that recipe and just cut it in half. But you can stick that thing as long as you keep it cold. I keep mine in a little cooler and I pack ice around it. It'll last for easily a week, okay? There's ice actually in it. You can put it in the refrigerator. You can't put it in the refrigerator, go ahead and use the cooler.
That looks like a peanut size
Yeah,
jar.
yeah. Yeah, the question was, what size jar is that? It's just it's like a Costco nut jar, you know? Yeah. Anything works, you know? Okay, here's that herring brine. You're going to start with a gallon of distilled water. It doesn't have to be distilled water. It's just non-chlorinated, okay? If you don't have this, if you don't have the distilled water, take a water jug and fill it up 24 hours before you're going to use it. The chlorine will just evaporate out of it. So, a couple cups of non-iodized salt, or you can use pickling salt, okay? A half a cup of powdered milk. The powdered milk will set the scales, and it brightens the bait up quite a bit. Mrs. Stewart's bluing, I actually do use that stuff on all of it. There's some other formulas out there. Guys are using the chartreuse. They're really bright yellowish green. It's okay, but this stuff always works. I have no problem with it. So it's pretty simple stuff. If you want to add scents, if I was fishing Tillamook Bay or some places in the ocean, I'll probably put anise in there. Grays Harbor, if I was fishing Grays Harbor, I'd definitely be adding anise to the herring. Okay. Some people like the krill. If you're using anise, the pure stuff works the best. It's kind of hard to find. That right there is pure anise. Came actually from the drugstore at
The nut jar from Costco uses half that.
half. Yeah. Yep. The question was the size of the jar versus this recipe right here is for double that. Okay. And it doesn't matter if you use a little less water. It's just going to be a little bit stronger. It'll just set your more salt is fine. Okay. There's the stuff you're going to use right there. Okay. That's a Kirkland water bottle. Okay. If you use the bottom of that up to the label on that band right there is 1 cup. Pretty handy thing to have, especially if you're not allowed to use kitchen utensils. Okay. Okay.
Wait a minute.
I am. I can use kitchen utensils. Our house doesn't look like a house. Our house is kind of different looking. We have lures and stuff in our kitchen, so it's okay at our house. Okay. But that's pretty handy. I mean, that thing I measured is perfect. So there's your 1 cup measure, and halfway up, of course, a little line. Okay. There's the chartreuse lime dye. Okay. That stuff really does brighten your bait up. Okay. If I was fishing Grays Harbor, and I mean, it really lays. This is not a Grays Harbor seminar here, but if you're fishing in a muddy area, let's say the river starts pumping out a bunch of mud here like it's going to in about a week, okay? If you're going to use cut plug herring, I'd brighten it up, okay? This Mrs. Stewart's right here, it's a laundry fix. You know, it's for making bright whites in your laundry. You put that stuff in the bait, and your bait will turn blue, and it brightens up the scales. It really actually works pretty good. And that little thing will last you a long time, okay? Okay. The Gulp cut bait, this stuff's been out for quite a few years now, and if you're going to use bait in general, like little pennants, like we were talking about, to put on the hoochies or the lures, you wouldn't put these on a spoon, by the way, because you're going to slow down the spoon too much. But This comes in, it looks like it's about an eighth of an inch thick. It's 2 1/4 wide by about 7.5 inches long, I think. It looks like a piece of foam rubber. Okay, it's got the scent built into it. It's a Ziploc bag. Try to cut, I didn't do it in this picture because it's a picture. I want you guys to be able to see with the size that you're cutting. But you're going to cut little pennants that may be no longer than wider than 1/2 an inch on the trailing edge and taper down to 0, okay? Cut them and let them drop right back into the bag and then zip it up so you don't lose the juice, okay?
Where do you get those now? Last time I tried to find Gulf, half the places didn't know what I was talking about, the other half said they quit making it.
Oh, they didn't quit making it. No, it's, yeah. I know Three Rivers has it, yeah. Yeah, it's there at Three Rivers, I know that for a fact. I haven't bought any in a long time because I've got a bunch of it, but I'm sorry to hear that it's hard to find, but it's worth having. If you run into dogfish when you're fishing, they don't like this stuff very well. It actually will help to fend off the dogfish, and that's why it's a good thing. If you didn't have herring and you had that, there you go. If you have dogfish situation, I get the herring off and put that on. Okay, it will help in your catch.
What's the shelf life on that, Mike?
The question is, what's the shelf life on this gulp? I'd say keep it out of the sun. Keep it out of the sun, and keep it in a cool place. On our boat, we actually put it down in the basement. We open it up and it's down there where it's cool. Okay. If you're not using the cut plug herring, here's something else that actually does work. It's a Brad's cut bait. Okay. There's a little piece of surgical tubing used as a rubber band at the tail end of this. The front of it is hinged. It opens up like a clamshell. Some people will put meat in there. Some people will put tuna fish in there. The one thing I will tell you, if you're going to use herring in there, if you have some herring in it and maybe it's not good enough to cut plug, it's still good enough to pack into that thing. Okay, if it's too mushy to fish as a cut plug, you can still use it to scent that lure right there. Keep in mind that there's vent holes on both sides of that. If you're going to cut some herring and put in there, fillet the skin off and mush it up. Okay, if you block those vent holes, it's not going to let the scent out. Okay, so if you put a fillet in there and close it up and it's still got the skin on it, you're going to get half of the effectiveness of those holes. Okay, fish this just like you would a herring. Okay, on a herring leader, you're going to make about a 6-foot leader. Somewhere in the middle of that leader, you're going to put a ball chain. Okay. That's what that is right there, and I've actually got a barrel on the top and a golf tee, okay, to fend off weeds, okay.
Okay, guys, that's a lot of information in part 3. Make sure you move on to part 4 for the conclusion of the Winter Blackmouth Seminar by Mike Jamboretz, Jambo Sport Fishing. For more information on fishing with Mike and Jambo Sport Fishing, visit jambosportfishing.com. Thanks for watching.